Chris.
Well, listen, Mark, listen, hold on. When I say, would you have caffeine today?
What the hell was that up to you then?
How much coffee did you drink before the show?
Listen, you can't polish a sneaker, right? throw tomatoes at me, do whatever you're going to do.
It's Corso and Catone.
Welcome in to Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. And I'm joined as always by Mark Catone, and your calls and chats, 855-313-PATS, 855-313-7287. And our producer director, Joe Guarnieri, has got us up on the chat right now, live on YouTube. So we want to hear from you, hear your thoughts, everything to do in New England sports, and everything's on the table. And Mark, we got a ton to get to tonight. And I mean, the story that's all over New England right now is what the hell is happening with the Boston Celtics? So I give it to you, Mark. What the hell is happening to the Boston Celtics right now?
Well, I think it's a variety of things, Chris. They seem like they're an unmotivated team. I think without Marcus Smart, they're a little soft, right? They don't have that edge and that toughness to them. And they don't have a guy anyone else on the roster, I don't think, that can bring that. And I think there's been games this year, especially recently, where it seems Tatum has lost interest, like in the middle of a game. Like, third, fourth quarter, he's just like MIA. I mean, they're behind. He's kind of out of it a little bit. He's not really in the flow of the game. The roster has to be shaken up. They have to shake that roster up. You're not going anywhere with what they presently have, and you're not going anywhere with just Tatum and Brown going forward. Two guys aren't going to, unless, you got LeBron and Davis, but those are the two, they're superstars. I mean, Brown and Tatum just aren't at that level yet. So you're going to have to add another cog to this team, and Ainge just sits on his hands and doesn't pull the trigger on anything. At some point, you're going to pull the trigger, Chris, because you only have these two guys for a window of time at peak performance, and then they start to slide. So I don't know what he's waiting for.
Yeah, and they're going to need to get paid again at some point too.
Yeah, of course.
Look, we'll taking it back to these two guys of Brown. I mean, I'll say this: Brown seems to be the only guy that's sort of playing hard every night. That's bringing it. And so the question I have, look, Mark, they lost to the two worst teams in the Eastern Conference back to back on Friday and
horrible,
Sunday?
Chris, horrible.
Yeah. So it's bad enough you lose to Detroit, okay, looking as they did, but then to follow it up against Washington and, completely look disinterested.
They looked worse against Washington than Detroit.
Yeah, they really did. They were disinterested. They just didn't want to hear it. Tatum, it looked like he kind of shut down, and like you say, somewhere in that game, he looked terrible. He looked like, now people could say, well, these guys are playing, a lot of games in a short period of time. These guys are 20, 21, 22, 23. You can't tell me they don't have their legs, that they're tired, and so I want to ask, whose fault is this? Who gets the blame for that lack of energy, that lack of enthusiasm, that lack of push? I mean, who's getting the blame for that? Is it Stevens? Is it Ainge?
Well, I'm going to read you an interesting quote that Ainge was on one of the local channels he does a show.
Well, while you're finding that, okay.
And it's interesting you bring that up, Chris, because he gets that, he kind of gets into it. He says, Ainge says, there are things I could have done better, meaning in preparation for the season, but I'm not going to mention names. I'll take this responsibility. This is a team that was put together by me, and we're not playing with enough consistency and urgency. And it's my job to look to see what we can do to improve the team, but that's always much harder than improving from within. So my take on that quote is, Chris, he's not getting rid of Stevens.
Well, look, and he also said, and I think it was yesterday, or maybe it was over the weekend.
He also says, Chris, just changing faces doesn't always change things, Ainge said, but it may have to come to that.
No, but the thing about Ainge is he contradicts himself sometimes within the same interview. You know what I mean? And so this guy, first he says, the energy level, the enthusiasm, the effort. I think he called it effort. I think he said the effort just isn't there right now. And we all have to look at ourselves, and the players need to look at it's a player problem. Players need to provide the effort. They need to provide the enthusiasm. This is not, and he flat out said, this is not a this is not a Stevens issue. This is not a.
He loves Stevens. He loves him.
Stevens. Listen, what the hell does that mean? NBA players. Philadelphia was a mess under whoever that coach. I don't even remember the name of the damn coach from last year in the year before.
Yeah, no, you're right. But he was a mess. He lost the entire.
They were a mess, that team. Embiid wouldn't play. He wouldn't try. He wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't bring it to the table every night like he's doing this year. Well, all of a sudden you bring in Doc Rivers, right? And so now all of a sudden that infusion of authority and trust or credibility, I guess the best word would be credibility in a coach. Now all of a sudden the Sixers are playing out of their skin. Everybody's playing well. Simmons, Embiid, everybody's trying hard. They're team players. The assists are up. So then I bring it back to Boston now, and I say to myself, okay, have they tuned out Stevens?
Well, listen, he was supposedly a player's coach. The players love playing for him. Now, all of a sudden, you got to question that, right? It's almost like the Pete Carroll syndrome. They loved playing for him until there was a mutiny, and all of a sudden, the Seattle, everybody wanted out of there, right? After they lost that Super Bowl to the Patriots. So, I mean, I don't know what it is, Chris. It's something you're gonna have to listen. So, my question is this, though. As we're going down this path.
Going back though. Yeah, but going back, like, okay. So you said Ainge is saying what he's saying, but he's saying you can put it on me for not getting the right guys. However, I love people that do that crap too. Don't you love people that own something but but then go back on it? Hey, look, it's my fault. I did this, but I did it because that thing. You're either wrong for it or you're not. I mean, what is it? So he comes out and says that what you just read about. I got to get more people around there. It's my fault that I haven't. However, it's not easy to do. No. It's tough to do. It's not easy. It's babbling, blah. Where the hell is this guy come? So he's a mess in his own right as far as what's coming out of his mouth.
Chris, the last few years, I think he's become a mess. I mean, yeah, he got Tatum and Brown, and he had all those damn draft picks, and he didn't want to make a move. He wanted to keep them, and like the last 2 or 3 years, Chris, I think he's really mismanaged the opportunity that was in front of the Celtics. I don't think he's done a good job. You got Tatum and Brown, great. And then from then on, I think there's been a lot of mismanagement by Ainge.
Yeah. And some people will say that he butchered the Cleveland situation with Gordon Hayward and say, well, I mean, there's arguments back and forth to say, well, he butchered that situation. He should have pulled that trigger. He should have done this or should have done that.
He let Hayward go, but his saving grace is he got the $28 million trade exemption.
Yeah, okay. So you got this.
But I don't know what you're going to do with it. I mean, you're going to have to pull a trigger. You're going to have to give up something, but you're going to have to pull a trigger too. He never seems to want to pull the trigger, Chris.
You got this. You have this trade exemption that you're not sure if it's ever going to be used. And by the way, that has to be used early on after the season ends.
Next year.
Yeah. But it's
so it'll get him through the summer though, Chris. I think so. The summer typically is when there's moves in the NBA, right? So it'll get him through the summer, I think.
I think it's earlier than that. I think it's very early on when the season ends that they got to use that.
It is, but I thought because of the pandemic and because of the new timeline for everything, that I thought they said it was going to be extended to like after free agency and all that nonsense, so he could make deals. But listen, it doesn't. Listen, at this point though, Chris, it's that other thing where everybody you have no more leverage. So now everybody in the league knows you're sitting with that exemption, and if you don't use it by a certain deadline, you lose it. So they're gonna really put the nails in the screws to us and say, hey, yeah, you want this guy? We want A, B, C, and D. You don't want to make the deal? Who cares? You're going to lose your trade exemption. So Ainge is really kind of screwed. He's,
And that's what happened with the Cleveland situation. What they wanted to give, Ainge didn't quite want it. I mean, you pulled the trigger there, and I'm not letting Stevens off the hook here.
Listen, Chris.
I mean, this guy comes on his press conference on Sunday and says, well, "What do you want me to do? I can't play Brown and Tatum 40." Oh, something like my kids, this guy, like my kids want to see Brown and Tatum play more, but I can't play them for 48 minutes. Who gives a hell? Who cares about what your kids want? What are you even talking about?
Run them to the ground. Run them to the ground.
Your team is 13-13, batting 500 right now. Okay. And you're talking about, well, I don't want to push him too hard. I want to push him. Look, Jason Tatum at the 7:14 mark in the third quarter in the Washington game.
He checked out.
Completely quit.
He checked out.
He wasn't getting back on D. So the question is,
was that because he played too many minutes the game before?
Is that his fault? I don't know, Mark. I mean, is that his fault? Is Tatum the guy we think he is?
I don't know, Chris.
I mean, is he the guy we think he is? Is he going to be a top 5 player? Because that's how they started the season. Started the season with him looking like,
well, if he's not a top 5 player, then you're nowhere near where you think you are. If he's not going to be a top 5 player, because that's what they keep projecting him to be, right? That you can win a championship if he becomes a top 5 player.
Well, he wants to be Kobe. He wants to be Kobe.
He's not Kobe.
He ain't anything like Kobe right now.
He's not Kobe.
The work ethic, See, the problem I have with Tatum that I've always had with Tatum since he started, and I always chalk this up to youth, to the fact that he's young, and this will kick in. He doesn't seem to be very aggressive. He doesn't seem to have that killer instinct.
But Chris,
mentality.
can I tell you something? The great ones, the Kobe's, they had that at 18. Kobe, they got that at 18, 19 years old. They got that aggressiveness that you're talking about. That's why they called him the Black Mamba, right? So Tatum's never. He just doesn't seem to have that in him, Chris. And if you don't have it, you don't have it. I don't know if that's something you can learn. I think that's an intrinsic that you have it. Like our buddy, Mr. Brady, Tom Brady, was drafted, and he tells Kraft, "I'm the greatest decision this organization ever made." He was a nobody. And he told Kraft that. Yeah,
that's confidence. That's the kind of the kind of mentality that you want. And look, Washburn said the other day they're not a team that can handle physical. Is that true or not?
Well, doesn't it look it, Chris? But I thought that's what they brought Tristan Thompson for. He's another waste.
That's a bust. That seems to be a bust right there. The draft, what's his name? They drafted was a disaster too. That they were relying on that guy. And I got to pull up the roster. Maybe Joe can pull it up. But the kid they drafted that they were all high on, not Pritchard, the other one,
the kid Nesmith, the other kid from Vanderbilt, the shooter.
Yeah. They were high on him, and he's not.
Listen, the guy I said that I wanted, and I think we took Nesmith before him because you know me, Chris. I love college basketball.
Yeah.
And the guy that Providence
I wanted is on right now.
I'm watching it right now.
I see your shirt right there.
I'm watching it.
That's why we were late tonight. That's why we came on late tonight. Mark was caught watching this game over here, Providence, UConn. You go caught right up to that, and it looks like Providence is down about 6 points.
We're down. Listen, but Chris, I love the kid that scored 30 points the other night against us for Detroit, Sadiq Bey, and we don't take Bey. We take this kid Nesmith, who I wasn't high on him when we drafted him. I didn't like the pick, and the kid hasn't showed me anything, and I didn't think the kid would show anything. I wasn't impressed with the pick.
Yeah. So, okay. So how do they get better, Mark? Because look, there's no more, like you say, Chris, there's no more lottery picks. There's no more money.
You brought this up 2 weeks ago about the deal with Houston for Harden. Ainge, like it seemed like he could have made that deal for Harden, and he wouldn't pull the trigger. Well, okay, what are you going to give up? You want to give up 5 number ones and Smart? Who cares? Give it up.
What are those numbers after pick 3, 4? What the hell are those picks? What do they mean?
Nothing in the NBA, Chris. Unless you get lucky, it's a useless pick. Useless.
I mean, you could go back. You can go back to those Celtics picks. You can go back to a lot of different teams' picks that go basically 6 on, and those are guys that just fizzled out, never played, never saw time, couldn't get out of G League. Like the guys like that just. They just can't produce for you. And so unless you're picking in the top 3, like you say.
And what I told you 2 weeks ago, Chris, I think is going to come to fruition. I told you Brooklyn's going to roll through. Brooklyn's going to roll, Chris. It seems like they have at least they figured it out for a year, saying, listen.
They bought in. I don't think it's got anything to do with Nash.
No, I think but I'm saying they brought Harden in, and we wondered whether Harden, Irving, and Durant could play together, but they've bought in, and I think they made a deal with each other. Listen, we'll do this for a year. A year from now, it might be a goddamn explosion down there, but for a year, they're going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to win a championship. Nobody's going to beat that team, Chris. No one's going to beat them.
Well, okay. So the apologist for the Celtics will say this to you, because you know how many games so far they've played. What 26 games so far? Because I mean, you're far enough along in this season where you understand you're enough along where you should understand the makeup of your team now.
Oh, positively, okay? They are what they are right now.
But I will say this, and other people have said this. How many games have Brown, Tatum, Kemba, and Smart played in together?
I don't know, maybe 2, 3?
6.
6. I didn't even think it was 6.
6 total games that those guys have been on the floor at the same time. So, okay. So what are you saying? That maybe once Smart comes back, you get Kemba Walker on the, you get Tatum out there, you get Brown out there, and now all of a sudden it starts clicking. I mean, look, is Smart that important to this team? Because I told you, the Boston media pisses me off sometimes because, again, they were contradicting. They're back and forth. First he's a guy who's selfish, that takes shots that he shouldn't take, that it should be in Brown and Tatum's hands. And Pritchard makes that putback to win the game, and Smart's bitching and complaining at the officials, blah, blah, blah. Get rid of him, trade him, whatever. Then he goes out for 2-3 weeks, and it's like, what the hell are we going to do without his defensive presence? What are we going to do about his tenacity, his leadership, that kind of captainship that you would have on the team? Because right now, Mark, there is no leadership on this team. Kemba's quiet. Tatum's quiet. They're all quiet guys,
Chris, the roster needs to be shaken up, and I don't know what that means, and I don't know what that looks like. But something, I mean, just trading at 3 number ones and whatever, bringing in somebody with that trade exemption isn't going to be that elite player. I don't think it isn't going to be that James Harden type of player. So I'll ask this question, Chris.
Which they could have,
but it's that ship has sailed. So here's my question.
Yeah.
If we think Brooklyn is unbeatable and they're going to win, they're going to sweep the East, how much do you actually give up? Because if this is a wasted year for you, what do you do? But then on the other hand, do you use the $28 million exemption in the summer before the deadline hits?
You have to.
I want to say the deadline is the beginning of the year, but I'm saying, do you wait until the summer and make your moves over the summer and just ride it out with this team for the rest of the year, knowing we're never going to beat Brooklyn anyways? So let's do something bigger over the summer and ride it out with these guys.
Well, yeah, because you can't.
What do you do?
The problem is similar to the Patriots, where you're sitting in the middle there. You're not. You right now they're 500, 13-13, but they're not Washington, who sucks, and Detroit, who sucks. Who these teams that are going to be lottery teams. You're not going to be that bad.
I'm not talking draft picks though, Chris. I'm talking about trading people over the summer, getting rid of a Smart, maybe throwing other people into the deal, getting rid of number 1 picks and using your trade exemption. And over the summer, you make a big deal to try to bring in another guy to play with Brown and Tatum. It ain't going to happen this year. Play the string out. What are you going to do?
Well,
listen, I'm not even talking for draft picks. I'm just talking, you're never going to be Brooklyn anyway. So make a bigger deal over the summer and start fresh next year with Brown, Tatum, and whoever else you bring in. And okay, maybe next year you can do something, because this year it doesn't look like it's happening anyway, Chris. I guess that's my question.
Well, that's if guys want to come to Boston, even if they want to come to Boston, because again, Mark, we may be on the road and nobody wants to say this, okay? But we may not. People kept talking about they're going to want Brown, they're going to want Brown, they're going to want Brown in a deal, any type of deal. We may be on the road to Tatum getting traded. Yeah. I mean, look, if this keeps up and there's no flipping of the switch, we may be on the road to Tatum going somewhere. And now, if something like that happens, everything you've done with all those picks, with all that money, everything you've done basically gets flushed down the toilet, and you're starting over again now.
Yeah, Ainge won't give it to Tatum.
No, he won't. He'll keep Tatum and Brown together. But Mark, he's a couple
of guys. He's
gonna
have to keep them together.
And then we're gonna get to break. But there's a couple of guys that right now the league is a little. The play. I don't know if you heard. Is it Draymond Green today? Talking about.
Yeah, I heard that.
He doesn't like the fact. Wake up, Mark. Come on, wake up. Wake up. Come on. Providence isn't getting beat too bad.
They're down 6.
Listen, he comes out and says today that he's pissed off because he doesn't like the way these teams, that ownership and teams are treating the players right now, because players should be okay telling them, hey, I don't want to play for you anymore. I want to go somewhere else. And then you go and sit them on the bench. I'm talking about now Drummond for Cleveland and Griffin for Detroit. Those two guys were basically benched because they're going to be traded. Well, by the way, I think Boston should be in the game on one or two of these guys, like Drummond.
I think Griffin's is an old man. He's washed up. He's on the downside.
Well, Drummond, I think he's 17 a game.
If I want right now, I would go after the other kid from Detroit, the kid Grant. The kid Grant, I'd go after the forward. He's like 6'9.5", 6'10". He can play the position that they need. He can play that other position, that 4 position. And the other guy I like, Chris, is the kid from Orlando, Aaron Gordon. I think would be a real good fit here.
Yeah.
Drummond, I guess. Blake Griffin, I absolutely don't want Blake Griffin.
Well, I mean, Drummond, Tristan Thompson isn't doing anything.
No, he's not.
Okay. Drummond's averaging 17 a game.
If you to get Drummond, Chris, you're gonna have to unload salary though. You're gonna have to get rid of some other people.
Yeah.
Where I think the kid Grant from Detroit, who I like, he's young, and I even think Aaron Gordon, you may not have to get rid of anybody. You could just give up picks in your trade exemption, and you could bring him in to fit within the cap space. I just don't listen. I just don't know how willing Ainge is to get rid of bodies.
Quick, Mark, quick. What do you think about that whole look for these teams that are benching their guys and getting ready to trade them? And what do you think about that? And what do you think about players basically signing a deal and then basically saying, "Nah, I want out of here"?
Well, listen, LeBron started all this with the players' movement around.
Yeah, but he was going year to year, though.
No, he was going year to year, but the power in the NBA has shifted to the players. That happened a couple of years ago, Chris. It's not like some of these other sports. So they request trades and they do it. And listen, they've been brokering deals. I mean, Durant knew he was going with Irving before he became a free agent, right? They broker deals, these guys in the NBA. The NBA is like no other sport. We talked about that last week, Chris, when we were talking about Brady. There's collusion all over the NBA. The NBA is crazy, but I don't believe, Chris, that the owners allow it.
Yeah, look, to me, it goes a little deeper than just the optics of saying, "Hey, I'm gonna bench this guy because we're getting ready to trade him." And that's not fair to the player. I mean, fine, you want to let him sit home while you're doing that, fine. So you don't have
Chris,
that
what's wrong? As an owner, I'm protecting my financial interest, because if I put you out there tonight and I'm working a deal for you and you go blow a knee out and now I cost myself the deal, you know what? Hey, listen.
You still get paid.
You still get paid. I mean, come on, I mean, Draymond Green likes to run his mouth sometimes too. Like, you can't have it both ways, right? They want to have it both ways, right? And his thing was, they chastised Harden for not giving it 100% towards the end with Houston, but he was on the court, and whatever.
Hey, look, Mark, in the last point, because Joe's screaming at me right now. The last point I'll make, okay, is this. It isn't just about the one guy. It's about how about the other players that decided to sign with that team or decided to do something and come to that team based on the personnel that they had. Now, all of a sudden, like Watson in Houston, now all of a sudden, I signed the deal, I want out. Well, what about those other guys that signed deals based on you and what you were doing? Mark, something to think about, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, J.J. Watt got himself released.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next. And when we come back, okay, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a little bit of the Patriots, their quarterback situation. We'll get to the Bruins. We'll get to the Red Sox. 30 seconds, right back.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Back in with more Corso and Catone. And Mark, listen, I got to tell you something that's annoying the hell out of me right now. All I can hear all day long are these birds chirping all day outside of my window, all day long. And so I'm trying to figure out what the hell, why am I hearing that all of a sudden? Okay. So the way my house is situated, there's a little bit of land between each house, but I mean, I have neighbors, right? But it's that desert landscape. So it's not like huge booming trees like where you are. Okay. So today I noticed the neighbor throwing bird seed over their fence, feeding the damn birds, Mark, like they're over at they're down at the lake feeding the ducks. Okay. And next thing all I hear is beep, 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 all day in my ear. And that's what I can hear right now. It's driving me nuts, Mark. It's driving me crazy. And you know what?
You're crazy enough. They're gonna fly birds out there.
You know what? I thought that. I said to myself, "Geez, maybe the birds are in my head. Maybe they're in my head, Mark. You know what I mean?" But what's also driving me crazy is the question of what the hell are the Patriots going to do at quarterback next season? And look, I mean, it's a football season's over, but we told you people, we're always going to be talking. Football's on the table. 365. Months, that's it.
That's it.
365 days a year. That's what it is. That's how the league is that's how the league is managed. It's just a great league. It's great to watch. But Mark, what does this team do right now? What are they going to do at quarterback? Because some people are talking about Mac Jones at in the draft. They're talking about the draft, saying, do you take a Mac Jones at 15, which I am dead against doing that at that number. Okay, at that point in the draft. But Mark, do you take a guy like that there? I mean, I could see him going. I don't care if they move around in the second round to get him and try to come up a little bit. But
his stock has risen, Chris. He won't make it to the second round. I don't want him at 15. Don't get me wrong. I don't want him at 15, but he won't make it to the second round either.
Well, I'm shocked.
And I don't want him at 15.
Well, this is what goes. See, this is why you're all going to have to tune in to our draft show, our free agency show, because then you're going to learn something. Okay, because here's what people aren't thinking about with Mac Jones. Mark, he was throwing to two top first round receivers and maybe even top 15 receivers, two of them. And the other one is going to be drafted as well. Not to mention a pro offensive line. Okay?
An NFL running back.
And an NFL running back. So how good did he really need to be anyway? I mean, honestly, how good? Because there were times in the season, he was okay.
There were times during the season I questioned his arm strength. Yes, right. He threw the ball up and made the deep throw. But some of those throws that you need to make on a rope, on a line, NFL type throws to the sidelines in a seam. I questioned his arm strength to make some of those throws at certain points during the season. He's gonna come up to New England in our weather conditions. It's been cold, snowy, windy for the last 8 weeks up here, 6 weeks. What's he gonna do in December in a playoff game when it's 0 out and the wind's blowing and it's snowing? But I just don't see. I don't know. I just don't see him as a fit here. I think he's more of a guy that would flourish maybe in warm weather, maybe in a dome. He reminds me of a Kirk Cousins, Chris. Kirk Cousins isn't a top 15 quarterback in a pick. He was not someone that should have ever been taken that high. He wasn't. Was he? The second, third round
tier
pick.
Two,
Cousins,
tier 3 quarterback.
Which is what Cousins is. I think Cousins is a tier 2 quarterback.
That's what I mean. Cousins, I think, is a tier 2 or tier 3 quarterback. But Mark, unless he's throwing a Pro Bowl receivers, which, by the way, in my opinion, 2 of those guys on Alabama will become Pro Bowl receivers, in my opinion. Okay. And so unless Mark, you're making me dizzy over there.
Mike, I kicked the camera.
So stop kicking things. Joe's going to kick us both off the air right now if we keep breaking the equipment.
Listen, between the birds in your head and me kicking the camera,
I'm surprised we're able to get anything out right now. But you know what? Mark, unless he's throwing a Pro Bowl receiver, he's got a Pro Bowl running back. I don't see it. So okay, fine. So we're both agreed on that. They shouldn't do that. Mark, I'll tell you the guy that I'm becoming more and more. I'm higher and higher on as time goes, and maybe I'm falling into the trap, but Wilson, the BYU quarterback, I know he's a little smaller. I understand that. Okay. But he looks to me to be able to make every throw. He can move around a little bit. He seems smart. And you know what I like about this guy? Kind of reminds me of a Baker Mayfield a little bit in attitude, where he's got that leadership quality. He's got that, hey, look, I'll throw 3 picks and I'll just keep throwing the ball. I don't care. You know, but is he going to be around? Will he be a guy? Because if you got to move to get somebody,
well, I think, well, Chris, I think you're going to have to move, because I think there's going to be a run on quarterbacks in the top 10. So if you don't get yourself into the top 10, I think all that's going to be left is a guy like Mac Jones. If you're planning on drafting a quarterback, I think there's going to be a run on quarterbacks. If you don't get yourself into the top 10, you're going to have to try to find a quarterback somewhere else. It's not going to be in the draft, or you know what I mean. Well, unless you take somebody in the second or third round, like the kid from Florida, Trask, and maybe he, and work with him. But
you think he'll be there?
No, in the second or third round, he'll be there in the second round, definitely. Yeah.
Second round, not third. I don't
not
think
third. Second round. The kid who intrigues me, Chris, and I know we haven't seen a lot of him, is this kid Trey Lance. Does intrigue me a little bit.
The problem with him is there's just not a lot of.
There's not a lot of tape on him. I know.
And who's he playing against?
Yeah, I know. And I don't think Wilson from BYU's really played against top competition in that conference.
Yeah, but I would say the competition with him is better, and there's more to look at. I mean,
there's definitely more to look at.
Where did he play at South Dakota? He played what, 1 game this season?
This season, but he played the year before. No, you're right, Chris. There's not a lot to look at. I'm just, but.
But you said, like you're saying, if there's going to be a run on quarterbacks,
I believe there
is. You're talking about, and next week we'll get into we'll have the draft list, and we'll talk a little bit about this run that you think is going to happen on quarterbacks. Because here's the thing: you're talking about probably 5 guys, okay, and they're picking 15. Are you really 5 quarterbacks? I mean, because I know Burt Breer and guys like that think there's going to be 4 quarterbacks taken in top 10.
I think Lawrence is going top 10. Fields is going top 10. Wilson's going top 10. And I think Lance will go top 12, 13, which means your 5th quarterback is Jones. He'll be the 5th one.
So
the only one left at 15 would be Jones.
Well, Mark, you can see the writing on all. You can see how that's starting to play, right? Because what does Belichick do that irritates the living crap out of us? Is he doesn't listen to his scouting department, but he listens to his friends in college. Well, who's his best friend in college?
Saban.
So Saban's going to be talking about, hey, look, Saban wants nothing more than for Mac Jones to be drafted in the top 20. So that way he can go to when he recruits, not that he needs a ton for recruiting, but he can go to people and say, hey, look, my quarterbacks go in the top 20. You want to play here, you're going to go in the top 20. That's just because I'm best friends with Belichick, and I could talk that guy into anything, clearly. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
I don't know, Mark. I mean,
I hope.
But I do think they need to draft a quarterback.
I hope they don't take Jones. I think that'll be a mistake that high.
Well, this is what the problem that a lot of teams run. This is the problem that most teams run into, that just stay and run in place. Like, well, Chris,
let me tell you something. If they get somebody like a Mariota or somebody like that who can give you maybe a couple of years, maybe you don't need to take a quarterback at 50. Maybe you go get yourself a receiver. Or if this kid Pitts from Florida, although this kid Pitts, Chris, the more and more I'm reading about him, he's going to go top 10. The tight end from Florida. They're saying he's the best athlete in the draft. There's no way at first I thought, you could probably grab this kid at 15. He's not going to be there at 15.
Well, Mark, there's only you got 10 picks. We're saying that 4 or 5 quarterbacks are going to go in the top 10. That only leaves 4 or 5, 6, 5 to 6 picks left. And Pitcher's going to be one of those. How about some of these other guys? How about the corner? How about, that offensive lineman, that defensive tackle?
Well, I'll make a wager with you. I guarantee you Pitts is one of the first 13 guys picked in the draft.
New England could use a guy like that. What do you need is a story to come up, like something happened.
Yeah, he was great. He was smoking M&Ms.
This way, New England can pass on him at 15, and then you'll really lose your mind. But you know what, Mark? This is what teams fall into. This is the bad teams that just keep the running in place. What they'll do is they'll be at 10 to 15, and they'll take a quarterback that maybe they're not so high on, but because everybody else is, they go and draft them there. And they just keep doing that year after year, or every 3 years, they're doing the same
Chris, the
nonsense.
other thing,
and they
kid,
run in
I've
place.
seen in 2 or 3 mock drafts that drops to New England. And if he drops to New England, I'll be okay with it. Because I think he's the best defensive player in the draft. Is the kid, because he had a couple of issues off the field. They said he's dropping. Is the kid from Penn State, Micah Parsons? If that kid's there at 15, Chris,
you got to take him.
He's the best defensive player in the draft, and that's a Belichick type of guy. He looks at best available. He's the best defensive player in the draft. Belichick would consider him a steal if he dropped to 15. A steal.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, so Mark, that brings you into
because you would finally have a linebacker, Chris, that can do all the things that we watch all these other teams' linebackers do.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be nice? So if we're talking about, okay, we're not going to draft you want to draft a quarterback that high, or you want to take one in this draft or maybe next draft, well, then that means you have to have a bridge guy. And so when you look at the landscape of the NFL right now and the quarterbacks that we think are available, you break them up into 2 tiers, because the tier 1 guys, those guys are a little more than just bridge guys. Those guys are guys that can stay with you. And so to me, when I look at these tier 1 kind of guys, I'm looking at Darnold, Wentz, Garoppolo. I don't know is there another name you want to drop in?
Chris, do you really think Donald's a tier 1 quarterback?
I'll tell you what.
Anything.
Well, I put him in the tier 1 category for a couple of reasons. One, because he's young. Okay. And I truly think Gates destroyed that guy.
Well, did you see who we just signed, though?
Tools.
Did you see who we just signed?
Yeah,
the coach?
The quarterback coach
from the Jets.
From the Jets. So why would Donald come? But listen, I don't think the Jets would trade him to us. I'm just saying.
No, I don't think the Jets would trade him in the division.
And these guys I'm talking about are really trade guys. Guys that you'd have to trade for. But I'm okay with Darnold. I'm okay with him coming in because I think Mark, you've been okay with him all season long because he's got the tools. He just needs the coaching.
Yeah.
He needs the coaching.
Yeah,
he's got the tools. But he's the guy that can stay with you. He's the guy that can be your future.
Oh, right? Absolutely, positively. He's young enough. He would be your future, positively.
So, and then there's Garoppolo. Then there's this, where everything keeps coming back to Garoppolo. And
the more I'm reading, Chris, it seems like San Francisco is going to stick it out with him.
I don't know. I think that may be one of those situations where they're putting that out there.
Yeah.
They're putting that out there to raise the value. But I'll tell you this, it can't be a number 2 for him. 3, maybe 4.
I'll tell you what, Chris, if you get him, he could be a little bit more than a bridge guy because he could give you 4 or 5 years, maybe.
Yeah, let's not forget he's 30 years old.
If a guy can give you 4 or 5 years, then he's not a bridge guy, right? Because you don't need to draft anybody for a couple of years now.
Right. Well, at least my point is, at least it gives you some space in drafts where you're not one of these teams that has to draft a quarterback, that you must draft a quarterback.
Chris, I'm going to tell you something. Unless he goes against everything he has shown us for over 20 years, Belichick is not that type of a guy, Chris, that's just going to draft a quarterback 15th. No. Unless he really thinks that he's a quarterback.
Okay, so fine. So when you look at those tier 1 quarterbacks, and Wentz, I'm just not high on Wentz. I'm really not.
I know.
I'm not. But the tier 2 guys, the guys that you can just go get. Okay. Well, Carr, I think Carr, you'd have to trade.
You're gonna have to use some draft capital to get Carr. Yeah.
But then there's Mariota, there's Bridgewater, there's Brissett, there's Alex Smith. I mean, we'll talk about Newton in a second, but these guys.
What about Winston?
You could just have them,
right? Jameis Winston's a free agent.
Yeah. There's another guy that you can get.
They claim New Orleans wants to keep him, but New Orleans is in such purgatory down there with the cap.
Yeah.
I think if you get offered him $10 million for 1 year, which is peanuts.
He threw like 30 some odd. He threw like 37 touchdowns the year before.
New Orleans would never be able to match that. So
So yeah, okay. So those are the tier 2 quarters. Those are the guys you can get. Those to me are bridge guys.
Yes.
Those are the guys you can bring in for a couple of years while you develop somebody, or even not even a couple of years, or even in the same year if you get a guy that you're high up on that you draft somewhere.
And Chris, those guys in that second tier, I believe, could probably get if you surround them with the right players, could probably get you into a playoff game.
Who do you like? I tell you, who do you like the best out of the guys? Mariota, Carr. I'm going to throw Carr in there. Brissett, Smith.
I think Carr
and Winston.
Well, I think
because you're probably going to be surprised at who I think.
So I'm going to tell you what I would do, honestly, because I think he's got the best. Can make any throw in the NFL. Has never had a coach. I would take Jameis Winston. You're going to think I'm crazy.
No, I don't think you're crazy.
Because if you surrounded that kid with weapons, with Belichick and McDaniels teaching that kid to play within a system, and Arians did that kid no favors, keep throwing the ball downfield. I mean,
well, Mark, you keep calling Darth Vader the cartoon character. So look at who he had for coaching the year before last. Who did he have?
And Brady, Brady.
Leftwich.
Listen, but Brady even bought into it for the first few weeks. He was throwing picks, and then finally he told the cartoon character, "I'll coach this team. You sit there, take out a pen and pencil, and go have a beer and sit down and have a pizza."
Yeah, and Leftwich, take some notes.
And Leftwich, and that's what they did.
It is what they did, and they turned it around. So yeah, you're right. Why wouldn't Winston be able to do that in the framework of what New England? And he can give you some years too.
Because I'm only thinking, Chris, Winston's not going to cost you anything. Yeah, he's going to cost you money, but not a ton of money. Because you're gonna have to waste draft capital for Carr and Mariota. I don't know, Chris. He sometimes
that's who I was going to pick.
I know. I just don't know about him. There's something about him I just don't know. I don't know.
Look, at one point, he was a real good quarterback. At one point,
yeah,
he was.
He was.
You know, I mean, he was picked real high.
He's never, Chris. You know what? The only I don't like about him, Chris, he's never really shown like Winston threw 35, 40 touchdowns. Yeah, he threw 30 interceptions with that clown down there. But Mariota has never really pushed the limit of anything. I don't know. But then again, I don't know. What do I know?
But he wasn't asked to do that either in that system that he had in Tennessee. He just wasn't asked to do that. You know, they ran the ball a lot. It was a lot of dink and dunk. It wasn't that kind of system. Yeah. You know, I mean, similar to what New England does. You know, hitting the back.
He would fit our system.
Stuff. So, and he can move around a little bit too. So, I mean, you know, and what do you think? We want to hear from you. Chat in. You know, let us know what you think. Who should the Patriots take? Who should they be? Who should they have for a quarterback? And you know, Mark, real quick, because we're going to go to break. J.J. Watt, any chance? Any shot? Any chance?
No.
Should they? No. Should they be making a play for this guy?
I would make a play for him because I think he immediately makes your defense instantly better. But I think he wants to go somewhere either. If it's not to play with the brothers, which I think he wants to, he's going to a place where he can win a ring. He's one of those guys, Chris. If we still had Brady and you were that close and Brady picked up the phone and said, "Hey, come win one with us," then you get him. The current state of the franchise, I don't think J.J. Watt would come here.
Yeah, I agree with you, but it would be nice to have that kind of leadership on defense.
Positively it would.
That kind of feared player on defense.
And you know what upsets me, Chris? That's what we lost with Brady. Not just, obviously, what he did this year in Tampa, but you lost that, hey, we'll go play with Tom. He'll win us a ring. He'll win me a ring before I go. Tom picks the phone up and says, "JJ, listen, you want a ring? Come on. Come here for 1 year. I'll get you your ring."
And boy, Brady was enjoying the libations, wasn't he?
Oh, he was throwing it.
The daughter of the silversmith that made that trophy was all pissed off at Brady for throwing that thing from boat to boat. You know what I mean? Yeah. So,
what did he say he was having? He was having avocado tequila.
Yeah, exactly. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the Red Sox, talk about some baseball, some sad news in the NFL, and we'll go to break on this. You know, Vincent Jackson, a couple of days ago, passed away. You know, and the cause of the death is under investigation right now. He retired in 2018.
He was a player.
He was a player. He was a real good wide receiver. You know, I never heard anything really bad about him or having issues. But Vincent Jackson dead at the age of 38.
What you call it also passed away, Chris. Schottenheimer, Marty Schottenheimer, good coach.
He did as well. That's right.
He was a good coach.
More Corso and Catone right after this.
how do I get to the point where I understand my passion enough to communicate it outward and dial myself in so that I can craft my own sauce? But you don't have anyone that's going to give you the right advice. Now you do. We've been discussing where we live and what areas do we want to always talk about. And really, it's startup, it's finance, and drive.
Back in with Corso and Catone, having a few little technical difficulties, Joe. I think, is that because Mark was throwing his equipment around? That could be, actually. That could Mark.
Listen, it goes back to the birds in your head. Not me. That's a bird. He's the birds. Like Alfred Hitchcock.
No, you know what? I'm gonna blame Mark for all of this. I'm blaming you for all the technical problems that we will ever have. But Mark, we're gonna talk a little bit about baseball now, a little bit about the Red Sox. They've been in the news recently, and talking about their payroll, talking about Hein Bloom and some of the things that are happening. And the Red Sox have what, a $200 million payroll?
They're just under the payroll tax, though, Chris.
Okay, well, I get it, but they're on the higher end.
No, they are,
but
their goal the last couple of years has been under that payroll tax, which they're under.
So let me ask you this: should fans expect this team with a $200 million payroll to be at least 500? And why? I mean, you're a baseball guy. I mean, you look at this team. I mean, should they be able? They're not going to be. They're not going
to be with a $200 million payroll on the surface. You would say yes, but they're not going to be a 500 team, Chris. Not with that lineup they got. I mean, if Sale pitches well, if he comes back, Sale, and he's healthy, and they can get some pitching, maybe, but they don't have the hitting, Chris. Their lineup. You look at their lineup. I mean, other than Bogarts, I don't know what the heck they got. I mean, they gave up Benintendi. There's
Mark, look at look at that. I mean, look at so okay, but I'm in the camp of if you have a $200 million payroll, you should be 500. I don't care. You ought to.
No, I know, Chris, but a lot of that is. But a lot of that
means you got to start looking at the GM.
No, but Chris, a lot of that is bad contracts that Dombrowski gave out when he was the GM. So this Hein Bloom is taking the philosophy of some of these smaller market teams. Like he came from the Rays, right? Which was technically, I mean, I know they went to the World Series last year, but he was trained, Chris, in this small market mentality, right? So what he's trying to do right now is he's trying to rebuild their farm system, right? I am not saying I agree with it, but he's trying to rebuild the farm system. So the way to do that is he's unloading some of these guys and getting just bodies in return to try to, because their farm system was totally depleted by Dombrowski, right? So Bloom is trying to get prospects, guys to be named later, and he's trying to retool the minor league system, all while trying to be competitive. And I think he's probably got a 3 to 5 year plan where they'll eventually get themselves back. It's certainly not going to be this year, and it's certainly not going to be next year, I don't believe. Yeah. But I'm not saying I agree with the plan, Chris, but all the moves that he's making, based on everything I know about baseball, that seems to be what he's doing.
Mark, I hate that.
And I don't know if that's Boston. I don't know if this is the market for that.
I hate that mentality for baseball. Yeah. For Boston. I hate that mentality for Boston because your payroll's too high to have that kind of mentality. And the problem is the owner has that same kind of,
the owner has always had the attitude, spend whatever we got to spend. They never cared about the payroll tax for a couple of years there.
Yeah, but is he really paying attention? I mean, is he really paying attention? Has he ever really paid attention?
I don't know. I think part of it, Chris, is with the Red Sox too, is they're no longer fueled by so the Yankees haven't won anything in a while, a World Series. Right. So I think if the Yankees were winning World Series, you'd see the Red Sox really jump in. But the last 6 years, they've won more World Series than we have. So I think they figured, hey, you know what? We can take a few years, rebuild the farm system, get ourselves in a situation to be contenders again, and try to do it in a different way this time. I don't know. Like I said, I don't agree with it being, being a market like Boston, eventually there's going to be a mutiny with the fans here, Chris. They ain't going to put up with this for very long.
No, I mean, again, I don't, yeah, they won't. And, they're not paying attention right now. And for reasons that we'll talk about in a second about why baseball just sucks as a league, but the MLB, but see, I don't like this 3 to 5 year plan. You're not the Rays. You're not the Athletics. You're not these teams. You're not the Royals. You're not these teams that, you're not these teams that should be on a 3 to 5 year plan, all these prospects, all this other nonsense. Oh, come on. You got a $200, you're just under the luxury tax. You're $200 million payroll. Look, you go and trade Benintendi, right? For Cordero, you go see there's a 3-team trade with Kansas City and the Mets, right? And you trade them for Cordero and this player to be named later, which really irritates the hell out of me because that player to be named later is never anything. It's never anything.
Except when it was David Ortiz.
Yeah, well, okay. But how far back you to go for that?
No. I'm just saying that's the only guy I ever remember, Chris, who was a player to be named later that was any good.
Right. So so you could have gotten more for Betts. I mean, the first move he made coming in was trading Betts, right? And most of the experts feel like you could have got a lot more.
Yeah, that was stupidity. They should have gotten rid of. I would have let Bogarts. I mean, I know Bogarts is good, right? But Betts is one of the top 5 players in baseball. You should have built your team around that guy. Instead, you traded him. I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I just think the small mentality GM is just not. He's going to get run out of town. Is what's going to happen, and the owner is going to hang him out to dry at some point because Cora's not going to take the heat. He's not going to sit there and take.
Well, Cora's the owner's guy. That's their boy. They everything he did, they brought him back. So they're never going to.
I mean,
they're not going to hand Cora out.
It's just typical Red Sox. What a stupid ass way they handled Cora to begin with. I mean, with all that went on with Houston, with the banging the garbage cans to give the signals and all that signal stealing stuff, and Cora was at the heart of that. If you were going to bring him back, okay, why didn't you just suspend the guy?
Yeah, I agree.
So just suspend him. Hey,
listen, bringing Cora back the way they did it, you're right, Chris, made the Red Sox look like complete idiots.
Well, this is why, and this is why that's how they're viewed. Yeah, but what's funny is the owner and the owner of the Red Sox is viewed as just a complete buffoon, right?
Yeah.
But how many world championships?
Chris, the only reason, that's the only thing. That's the only thing that's helping them survive is the fact that look at all the championships they've won since 2004, right?
They won more than New York.
Yeah.
They've won more than New York.
Listen. They.
So I mean,
they have a lot. Yeah. They have a lot, Chris, to thank Epstein for. The guy that just left the Cubs. He took some time off now to be with his family because he's been at this since he was a young guy. Epstein was Theo.
That was a mistake. They should have kept him.
Yeah, Theo was the guy who built the farm system. He built what this team became, and he was the reason why they were able to go get guys like Sale too, because the guys that they traded to get Sale were guys that came up in his system. He built that from the ground up. It took him time to do it. He did it, and then the other guy, what the heck was his name? The guy that went to San Diego, who's doing well over there. Or Arizona, maybe it was Arizona. The other GM, Charrington,
yeah.
Ben Charrington. I think he's in Arizona with you guys, isn't he?
Yeah.
So
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So all those guys built that. Then Dombrowski came in, and he was famous for bringing in veterans and depleting your farm system, which is what he did.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you want a World Series with him? Okay, great. But then every organization he's ever gone to, Dombrowski, Chris, he sets them back 4 or 5 years. The team don't, because everything's gone. You got to rebuild from the ground up. Like I said, which is what I think this guy Bloom is trying to do. But to your point, Chris, with a $200 million payroll, does that even equate?
That's why a guy like Epstein was to me the perfect guy for this situation, because he understood the landscape of Boston sports. He understood the Red Sox and what they mean to the community. Okay, and so did all his moves work? Did it Sale? I mean, did they all work out the best way they could have? No, No, but but to have a small market mentality in a big market, that's not going to last very long.
And I don't know if, and I'm not saying and I don't know if they've taken a small market mentality, but I do know the way he's rebuilding.
That's who he is.
Yeah,
that's who he is.
Yeah, the way he's rebuilding this organization is what teams like Tampa Bay and those smaller market teams have done. And you're right, Chris. And that seems to be the approach he's taking.
Yeah, it's Boston. It's New York. It's Boston. If you wanted to get a power hitter, okay? If you wanted to get a power hitter, go get Chris Bryant and put him in left field next year. Just go get that guy. I mean, you know to say, well, what do we got to do to get him? What do you mean, what do you got to do to get him? You pay him. That's what you do. You go get him, you put him in left field, and now you got your power hitter. That's my point. That's Boston. If you're in Boston, if you're in New York, okay, if you're in LA, if you're in St. Louis, these are the moves you make. These are the moves you can do without having that. It's like he's brainwashed of Tampa, with that Tampa mentality of, we can't pay all that salary. We're going to have to maneuver some things around, get some trade, develop the system. Bull. You're in Boston.
Chris,
you don't develop any system.
Chris, maybe
you have to have a system, but a farm system. But you want a power hitter and you're Boston, go freaking get a power hitter and pay him. No?
Yeah, but Chris, I think after all those years of paying to win all those World Series since 2004, maybe I think the ownership has decided, let's take a step back. Let's stop spending for a few years, readjust, and then maybe try to make another move again.
Nonsense. You know what? The sport's too dead anyway for them to have that mentality. It's too dead for Boston to be irrelevant for 3 more years. Okay, as it is, nobody cares. You know what I mean? And so, which brings me to my next point, which is, how about David Ortiz in the last few days comes out and says, the game's in trouble, takes too. He said now he's this guy is saying this now, which he was part of the issue. The game takes too long, but he took exception to the fact that every time the league wants to do something and make any changes, it's always on the offensive player. It's always, keep one foot in the box or don't adjust your gloves. He said, but they never look at the pitches. The pitches are the ones that are slowing the game down. Which is that? I mean, Mark, is that true? I mean, which side do you put this on? You put this on the defense?
I think it is. I think I think they've tried to make the pitcher speed it up. I mean, they've put the timing on the pitcher now, but and they've
but I mean, how
but Chris,
you put the timer on watching that and
but
see
Chris,
if they really enforce that.
I don't know if they enforce it, but Chris, they also put the rule in place to try to make the game a little more exciting and speed it up a little bit, where they try to limit the number of times you can go to the mound, and they also you have to face so many batters once you bring a reliever in, so you can't keep going lefty righty. You have to face a minimum number of batters, right? And that cost the Rays in that World Series last year against Dodgers.
Oh my God.
Because they couldn't go back to the bullpen to take that kid out. He had to go to the extra hitter, and they hit the home run.
But they should never have taken him out.
No, they should have never taken him out in the first place. But
I mean, that was a terrible move. I don't like him. I don't like him. That's the guy in April that I was like, who the hell does this guy think he is? When COVID hit.
Manager Cash, yeah.
No. The pitcher.
Oh, Snell, the pitcher?
Snell, who he took out, where I got really pissed off about that guy in the offseason.
They traded him.
Or he was all COVID came out and they said, look, you got to give up money, and baseball was fighting with each other, with themselves about
came out
getting back. And he came out and said, I got to get paid. I got to get my money. And in the meantime, everybody else in the country is trying to survive. People are getting money, government money, stimulus packages and all this other stuff's coming around. People can't pay their employees. And this clown, this fool is coming out and saying, I don't care. I want my money. Okay. And that's one of the problems with baseball too. They're not likable. I mean, they're not likable, but Mark, how do you, I agree. When these games take, and we talked about this a little bit last week, these games take 3.5 hours. They take 3.5 hours to play. You got to do something.
It's tough.
I mean, what's the league going to do? They have to do something because, as you said, hot stove, there is none.
Chris, guys are signing right before. I was just going to say, there's still guys unsigned. Jackie Bradley still isn't signed. The Red Sox center fielder
And
still
then-
hasn't signed with a team yet. So pitchers and catchers report the 17th. Well, some 17th, 18th, 19th, all around baseball. And you got guys unsigned. They're not even
That's
signed yet.
tomorrow, Mark. That's tomorrow.
Oh, it is? Jesus.
You know?
Chris, I'm asleep over here. It's tomorrow.
Come on, wake up, Mark. Pay
Right,
attention.
tomorrow.
Mark's so worried about this UConn. This
Nah, we
Providence
lost.
game
We
over here.
lost. We lost. We
Did we
lost.
lose that
Yeah,
game?
yeah. Well, we were losing. But Chris, so you still got guys unsigned for crying out loud. That's how bad.
Oh, I know, and it goes right
baseball's
up to the top.
become.
Mark, I like your idea about making that like the NFL. Put a window.
Yeah.
Put a window of free agency, so there's some frenzy. They
You gotta do something.
And MLB Network can advertise it. They can do something with it because it's just dead. It's just absolutely dead.
You got to do that.
You know?
Let it, like you know, MLB Network advertise it. Have
And
a
then we
big
gotta get the
thing.
break.
And how else are you going to get any excitement for the sport? The excitement is gone, Chris. I mean, I love baseball. I'm probably one of the few left diehards out there. I mean, my son plays. I mean, but it's dying.
It is. It's too watered down, and Joe. Yeah, we're gonna get the break, but it's too watered down. Okay, there's too many games. 162 games. Nobody wants to watch it in May. Who cares? They're watching hockey playoffs. They're watching basketball play. I mean, nobody's looking to watch that. And now they get into the dog days of summer. July hits, and you got training camp for football.
Yeah, once training camp hits July and August, people are interested in football again. Well, football's starting later, first week of September.
And I'm not talking about Boston. I know. Hey, look, I understand Boston's a Red Sox town. It's a baseball town. I get that. Okay?
No, but around
New
the
York,
country. Yeah.
L.A., St. Louis.
That's different.
But everywhere else, you think Pittsburgh, you think they give a rat's about the Pirates over there?
No,
they're just waiting for the Steelers to come back.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right.
So
you're right.
When we come back, we want to talk a lot about the Bruins actually, because right now they're the talk. They're the talk of the town, and that's why we saved that for last, so that we can talk about the Bruins, get into it without any time constraints. More Corso and Catone right after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Back in with more Corso and Catone. And listen, Mark, are the big bad Bruins back, Mark?
Again, we talked about this the other day, Chris. Yeah, they're playing good hockey, but I still will go out there. Yeah, they're fighting, they're physical, they're playing well, they're doing everything. I still don't know if the goaltending is enough to win it. In a playoff series, Chris, you need goalies that can stand on their head in a 7-game series when you get deep. At some point, if you look throughout history of hockey, even the last couple of years, Chris, there's always a goaltender on the team that wins it, where there's a streak of 2 or 3 games where he's going to be on his head making saves, because it's just the nature of the sport. And I just don't think our 2 goalies are capable of doing that.
Mark,
and I could be totally wrong. I'm negative. I know I'm negative. I'm negative.
You're so damn negative, man.
I know.
You're really so. Now you got to come out to the West Coast and have a little more. I mean, you're so negative. Look, I mean, give us something to be happy. I mean, Jesus, the Celtics are going in the toilet. The Patriots are a damn mess. Nobody cares about baseball. Can you at least give us the Bruins right now, Mark? I mean,
I'll give you the Bruins. I'll give you the Bruins in February.
Yeah, and they're what are they right now? They're 10. I believe
10,
they're 10-2-2.
Are they 10-2-2?
10.
I don't do it. I thought
They got 23 points. They're one out of the top team in the league, the whole league. They're 1 off that mark, 1 point off that mark, but the other team's got a game ahead, game on them. But Mark, I like. Yeah, I guess I understand what you're saying about the goaltending, but Halak and Rask are both playing well right now, and so
Yeah.
to me, the biggest problem when you're talking about, since you're bringing it up, when you're talking about goaltending, is the toll. The toll it takes with a whole season. Now it's a shortened season; is a little shorter,
Shorter.
and both goalies are playing well, so that allows Cassidy a little more leeway with Rask. You can give Rask a little more rest. He can sit him down, and you're worried about putting the lock in. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
because both of them are playing well and standing on their head right now. I mean, and some of these games, Mark, are not, they're not 6-5, 7-4 hockey games. I mean, these things are
they're
1-0,
games.
2-1.
No, the Bruins don't play
3-2.
6-5 hockey games, Chris. That's not their style.
Right. So there has to be some good goaltending. There has to be some happening right now, because if you're playing those, because I mean, most teams now are going to get at least 25 shots on a night, on goal.
Yeah.
I mean, 25, 30. So, their save percentage, both goalies, is pretty damn good right now. So the question is, well, can they maintain that? Can they maintain it? Well, Mark, I think that in front of them, because to me, I always look at hockey and I put it all together. Like I put goaltending with the defense, as one unit, as playing as a unit, playing as a group. And look, their defense is playing. They're playing really well right now, and they're making you forget Chara. McAvoy. Some of these guys. They're making you forget Chara, and that he was here, that he left, that he went to Washington, because the defense is playing that well right now. And guys like Richie, this guy, I mean, how about this guy in front of the net? I mean, because he's not a Pasternak. He's not this kind of player, but this guy finds the net almost every game. I mean, he's always there. He's in front. He's hanging out front. He's getting redirects. He's getting tips. The puck just seems to find this guy, and it seems to find its way into the net. So, I mean, they're getting contributions like that. And I'll tell you what, I was excited the other night. They played the Rangers, New York. Okay, man, that was, I don't know. Did you? I'm sure you watched that game, but listen, the pounding and the hitting and the fighting and it was fantastic.
It was an old-fashioned game.
Yeah, and this kid Fredericks, I'll tell you what, this kid reminded me of 1972. You know what I mean? This guy reminded me of O'Reilly.
They just the big bad Bruins again.
Not only did he get in a fight and hold his own pretty damn well, okay? Not only that, he went into the box. And he was still drawing with that player, man. He was going after him.
Come on, that's good. Those days are going way in the end of those. It's passing.
Listen, hey, you saw what bull. You saw what I saw. These guys aren't taking any crap off anyone. This kid Fredericks was fighting, man. He was fighting on off the ice, and he was letting them have it. And that's just, see, Mark, to me in hockey, that kind of mentality is infectious.
Yeah.
It just gets guys going. And last week we talked about the third and fourth lines, right? Those are the lines that are going to have to, those are lines that do something in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, those are the lines that grind.
Fredericks, right, and Smith. If these guys keep playing the way they're playing and with that tough, hard-nosed mentality, Mark, why shouldn't they be at the top for the whole season? Why can't they carry this thing through to the playoffs? I mean, hopefully there's no shutdown and there's nothing like that coming. I mean, you never can predict it after last year. Who the hell knows? But if there isn't, with the short amount of games that they have, I mean, why can't they take it into the playoffs? Now,
they're going to have to, Chris, because they're going to have to, the third and fourth line for them to win a Stanley Cup will have to kick. You got to grind in the playoffs. Those are the lines that do the dirty work in the playoffs. Those are the teams that win it. Those lines help you win championships.
Well, and the thing about it is what I mean, for your money, do they need to make a move? Does this team need to make a move to put them over the top, or is it in-house right now? I mean, do they have what they need, Mark?
See, hockey's a different type of a sport, Chris. I don't know if it's so easy to make trades in the NHL, because the salary cap structure is different. The whole setup is different. So like to trade something to get something in the NHL, a lot of times you're giving up either real young players or you're giving up draft. You notice when they trade, even like around the trade deadline in the NHL, it's always to get a veteran, not a guy in his prime. You're bringing in a veteran, like a veteran defensive guy because your team's not tough enough or hard nosed enough, and you're usually giving up a draft pick or a real young prospect to bring in that type of a player. Like I don't. When you say a trade, I don't think they're going to bring in somebody that's like in the prime of their career that's going to make a big change. You know.
No, I mean that's
but
hard. That's
hockey, it's just
but I
different.
mean, I'm talking about
other sports that happens. You know, so
yeah, I'm talking about a scoring wing, somebody that not
even
not getting
is
top
tough.
2 line guys, but
No.
see, here's the thing. I mean, the one guy on this team that I can't say. I mean, if we're going to talk any negative at all, they're trying to get the DeBrusk going right now because now he's flat. Right now, he can't put the puck in the net.
So
he's in a drought. So they move.
Do you need him in the playoffs?
I mean, I think from what Cassidy's doing right now, it looks like it because they have a little break right now, and I don't think they play again until Thursday. I think Joe checked that, but I don't think they play again until Thursday, and because I think they had some COVID shutdowns, some of the games were canceled, so they had a skate. I think yesterday, yesterday. And what Cassidy did was he moved DeBrusk up to the top line into a little bit of a shakeup and put Pasternak down to that second line to try to get DeBrusk going, to try to get him playing with Marchand and Bergeron to see if he can get him going. I mean, Mark, is that going to work? Because if you can get that guy going,
if you get him going, you're okay.
That's
if you get him going, Chris, if you get him going, I don't think you need to make any moves. I think you probably have what you need in house if you can get him going.
Well, because people are saying, well, okay, is Krejci just not providing for him what Bergeron can give him on the top line, and then maybe it'll create a spark.
Krejci's in the back end of his career. Let's face it.
He is. Some of these. I mean, you would think that all of them, most of the, you would think that top line is minus Pasternak, but they just keep going and going and going. But
yeah.
Krejci's good. Krejci's good for the. I mean, this guy's around for the power play. I mean,
yeah.
Because if you look at 5-on-5 with the Bruins, they're not as strong as they are when they're short-handed, when they have a power play or when they get into 4-on-4. And because you notice they've had a lot of overtime wins. They've had a lot of overtime wins, and when they get 4-on-4 and get some more space, and you get Bergeron out there with Marchand, and you get Pasternak and the defense, but Krejci's great on the power play. And that's where his value comes in. But the problem, Mark, with the playoffs is, are you going to get as many? The percentage of power plays in the playoffs.
No,
goes down.
Everything gets called tighter, right? Everything's tighter.
Right.
They allow a lot more to happen, right? They're not calling it as tight to the vest, right? So you're right, Chris. Typically, a lot of those regular season penalties you see, they let the guys play in the playoffs, right?
Right.
A lot of that ticky-tack stuff where they're blowing a whistle, you're not going to see that in the playoffs in the NHL.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, we talked about, and Joe got this for us. Yeah, they play Thursday at 7:00. They play they're home against New Jersey, the Devils. But yeah, Mark, you're right. You're not going to get as many calls. It's just not going to happen. And so if they're a special teams kind of a program, maybe that hurts a little bit. That 5-on-5 has got to improve. It has to improve. And like you say, it can't, like you were talking about last week, it can't just be the top line. It can't.
No.
You've got to have production from that second line, third line, and then that banging line. But again, I'm happy with that Fredericks line, with that line. As far as their physicality and their big bad Bruins, Mark, they're back. They're back. Damn, I love hockey.
Back. Right now they're back. Right now they're back.
I love hockey, man. I really love it. If you ask me, what are my two? Obviously football. I think everybody can see that, but I love hockey. And there's no better sport to watch, which is real sad now, but there's no better sport to watch live than hockey. I mean,
no, I will say the hockey is a great sport to watch live. Great sport.
So if you had to rate them, okay, if you had to rate the 4 major, throw soccer in there too, the 5 sports.
Hey, throw soccer in there.
Well, you gotta throw in Major League Soccer. It's how many? Hey, listen, when you go around here, everybody's on the soccer field. Mark, you said it last week. They're either playing lacrosse, they're playing soccer, and baseball is dying, right? So if you had to rank the 5 sports, okay, as far as watching it live, because nobody does TV better than the NFL. Nobody.
No.
That's it. Hands down.
Nope.
I mean, nobody does. They make the watching experience so much better than going. It's absurd. So, Mark, how do you rate the 5? Being able to go to a game, sit down and watch it
live? Okay, well,
live. Yeah. What would you go to a game and watch it on the screen?
Well, I thought you meant viewership on TV, viewing it on TV.
No. I mean, go and sit down. Sitting your ass in the stand and watching the product out there.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Chris. I think it depends, too, where you are. So, for instance...
Don't pick baseball.
If I can walk through Monument Park in New York, why not? Right?
I know. I know. How many? But the point is, if you're walking through Monument Park in New York, that means you're bored with the game.
No, it's before the game. It's the whole experience, Chris. But listen, come on. You've been out in Arizona too long with all those please, not even got sports out there for crying out loud.
I mean, I've been to Monument Park more times than you can count. Okay.
All right, so listen. My 5 top sports, I realize they do a great job watching
now live, sitting there live watching.
Yeah, sitting there live. Yeah. There's still to me nothing like when the Patriots come out of the tunnel, and there's just the place goes crazy. There's no better feeling in sports when they come out of that tunnel. And number 12 used to say, "Let's go."
Mark, remember. Mark and I were at we've been to many games over the years, and we usually go to the home opener after and I say usually, how spoiled are we? I mean, doesn't that piss you off about Patriots fans lately though? How much crap they're giving Belichick? Yeah. Like how much crap are you giving Belichick? They've won for 20 years. Oh, it was all Brady. It was all Brady. Okay, you won for 20. You've been in the Super Bowl every other year for 20 years.
Yeah,
and they're giving them a lot of crap. Okay, but. We usually go to the home openers after they win a Super Bowl. And you remember the year, was it 04 going into 05? I think it was because my son, it was the 05, I think starting the 05 season, right? Where they played, was it Pittsburgh? I think they played.
They played Pittsburgh. They played Pittsburgh. Yep.
There was nothing better than, remember that? When the Patriots come out, for those of you who don't know, they come under this helmet. So it's like a balloon. They blow it up and then the Patriots get announced. And they come from like underneath it, So Mark and I are sitting there, okay, pre-game, and we're up in the stand, we're looking at everything, and we're watching. And I said to Mark, I go, geez, something looks different about that helmet. Something just looks different. It just doesn't look. I mean, it didn't look like a balloon, did it? Right?
No, it didn't. No.
All of a sudden, they raised the banner. I don't know if they raised the banner. They had raised the banner already. So everybody's nuts in that joint. Remember? All of a sudden, that the helmet opens up like this. Okay? And who's on the stage? Because to get this right, the Patriots always come out the Ozzy Osbourne Crazy Train. That's the song they come out to all the time, right, Mark?
Yep.
Who's on the stage, Mark?
Ozzy. And didn't I say to you
Ozzy was
about 20 minutes earlier, I said, Chris, imagine if they put Ozzy out there tonight.
Yeah, I said, they ain't going to do that. That guy can't even stand up on his own. You talk about a weekend at Bernie's, you got to put that guy on the cart and wheel him in there on the hand truck, But there he was sitting there. And I'll tell you what, that joint, I didn't think it could get any louder after they dropped that banner. It did. It just, the decibel level just rose at that point to a degree where I remember Ozzy standing on the stage going like this.
Oh, he was nuts. He was nuts. He was nuts. So with that said,
Mark, I agree with you.
I'm going to say football, right? I got to say football, Chris. But I will agree with you. I think the second best sport to watch live is hockey. I think there's no doubt. You go to a Bruins game, the place is rocking and they're hitting and banging, and it's you go to a sold out Bruins game and there's nothing like it, right? Hockey's just different,
especially when it was the Garden, the Boston.
When it was the Garden, right? Yeah, it was nothing like it, right? And then I'm I am gonna say my third favorite sport. Me personally, I do like I do like baseball. Watching a baseball game live more than a basketball game. Um, but
and then no soccer, Mark. You don't.
well, I did. Then I'll say
nothing.
basketball, and then I'll be honest with
You
you.
don't put
Chris.
soccer.
Soccer is probably my fifth sport to watch live.
Yeah, 5 out of 5.
Out of 5, it is. You know,
Right.
and don't get me wrong. My son was little when he was like 6, 7 years old. He played soccer a couple of years, and then that just wasn't for him. But you know, and we used to go to the games, and there was something about soccer that it would draw you in to watch it, but not live. No, but definitely.
I'd rather watch NASCAR than soccer. I'd rather watch.
Well,
the
you know
race.
what? Well, that's the other thing. I'm
Like
not even counting
Daytona.
NASCAR, Chris. If you go
see
live to one of those things, that's crazy.
I've been out
Right?
here in Phoenix.
Right? Isn't that
I've been-
crazy?
Well, it's like a whole weekend event.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like 3 or 4 races with the truck race and the
Wait a minute. I'm
lesser
sorry,
degree on
Chris. Who am
Saturday
I?
and the-
Who am I kidding? Who am I kidding? It's football. It's hockey. And there's nothing like a live horse race at Saratoga.
Yeah, well, that's
Nothing like a live horse race.
That's a
at
whole. We go in
Saratoga.
August. Yeah, Mark. Hey, look what's on over there. That's what I got on right now. I got the trotters on right now.
There you
Okay.
go.
That's how bottom we've hit. But here, listen, for me,
Well,
honestly,
Chris's father used to run he ran horses at Saratoga.
yeah, he owned race horses, and Saratoga in August. It was a lot of fun as a kid. But Mark, I honestly put hockey first for folks sitting down and watching it. You know, with football, a lot of timeouts. I just, you know why I feel
No,
like
you're right.
I feel like the
I get-
TV watching experience is so good for football now
Yeah, they do. They've made it incredible.
that's why I put hockey. But there was nothing better than going to see Neely and Bork and Morgan.
Oh,
and
those
Oates and
guys.
those
No,
guys.
you're right. Those guys.
Back in,
that was an experience.
And even now, I mean, every time the Bruins come to Arizona, I go, because it's But anyway, yeah, I would put it hockey, football. For me, it depends. It's baseball or basketball. The problem with basketball is it's like going to a nightclub.
Yeah.
You go to a basketball game, it's like it's like a pickup central over there. I don't know how many people aren't even interested in the game. Now in Boston, it's probably a little different. They're out in Phoenix, but the people are a little more rabid. They're more into the game than over here. But that's probably why I would put baseball ahead of basketball.
Yeah, me too.
And then I would put NASCAR, and then I would put soccer. So,
and one of my
Mark, we
favorite things
certainly
to
got off
watch, Chris.
topic, didn't we?
Yeah, we did get off topic. But one of my favorite things to watch, Chris, you know that. And I when I was younger, I used to go every year live to go watch it. Before I had kids and stuff, I love March Madness. I love the NCAA basketball tournament. I love March Madness.
It is exciting.
You know,
I've been to a few of those bracket tournaments. Never been to a final, but yeah, that is exciting. That tournament play is exciting. I wish they would do it more with football, with the NCAA football. But yeah, Mark, Bruins. Look, just keep rolling. Keep it up. Keep rolling. Keep rolling. Keep rolling.
Listen, the Bruins are going to be in the Bruins are going to be in the fight, Chris. They're going to be in the fight.
And what I say about Tampa, here they come.
Here
they are. They're nipping at the heels of Boston right now, even though they started a little further down. So when we come back, we're going to preview the next show. Mark, it's already been full time already. Wow. Where did the time go? But when we come back, we're going to preview the next show, talk about all New England sports, the real deal, New England feel, more Corso and Catone after this.
How do I get to the point where I understand my passion enough to communicate it outward and dial myself in so that I can craft my own sauce? But you don't have anyone that's going to give you the right advice. Now you do. We've been discussing where we live and what areas do we want to always talk about. And really, it's startup, it's finance, and drive. We are Special Sauce Podcast.
Back in with Corso and Catone and Mark. As we said, time flies when you're having a lot of fun, and Mark and I were always having fun doing this. Next week, Mark, we're going to get more into, I want to see how Boston does this week. I want to see how the Bruins do against Jersey and how they go through the weekend. And really, really what I'm interested to see is what are the
Celtics.
Celtics going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, how are they bouncing back? So, Mark, final thoughts.
It's going to be an interesting winter, Chris. I think the rest of the winter and early spring, I think with the Bruins and the Celtics, really with the Celtics, Chris, like you said, did we make a mistake with Tatum and Brown? Did we thinking that they were going to be the next, the next big two, big three, whatever it is? Let's see. I think it's going to be very telling. It's going to be an interesting 2 or 3 months for the Boston Celtics to see where they go and where they go next and what their future holds.
I agree. That's a big story right now. It is. And, New England sports, the New England landscape, it's got to be the negative, with the Red Sox go off the bridge, right? But
I am a little upset, Chris, because next week would have been the NFL Combine, which is one of our favorite events. And, which that's another nonstop thing with us. At the end, I'm texting him at 3:00 in the morning that they're showing a replay of the linebackers. That
I DVR that and watch it over and over and over again. That's how sick we are.
Yeah, so that's an event that we're going to miss this week. I am going to miss the Combine.
Yeah, but listen, I agree with you with the Celtics. It is a lot. Stay tuned because listen, if Tatum does continue, look, I think he'll get his game back. I think he'll get his legs under him again, and Brown, maybe Smart coming back will infuse some of that energy into that team. But I do think they need to make a move, and I'm okay with them making a move for Drummond. I'm good with that. Something. Tristan Thompson is just not getting it done.
Do something.
Neither is Williams. Do something. Because if this doesn't work out, Ainge has got more egg on his face than you can possibly imagine because they had it all. They had picks. They had money. They had it all. And
Chris, if you can't blow that trade exemption. If he blows that trade exemption and you eat it, he's going to look like a complete. They'll run him out of here.
Yeah, it can't happen. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at more Bruins, as we said. Pitchers and catchers report starting tomorrow. So we want to take a good look at what's going to happen there and see if there's any interest. See if anybody actually cares about baseball. And you know what? Next week, we're going to start a new little segment. I talked about NASCAR. We're going to have the NASCAR Minute next week. Well, listen, I don't know. I know New England people don't really care so much about it. But it is interesting. So I want to throw a NASCAR.
You know what it is, Chris? It's not that. You know what it is? It's because there is none up here, right? There's no racetrack up here that has NASCAR. It's tough.
Well,
right?
yeah. There's New Hampshire.
There's New Hampshire, which people aren't. I guess
which is a big race.
It is a big race, but Rhode Island, Massachusetts. I think it's more of a New Hampshire, Vermont type of a.
Oh, listen, if for those of you out there that haven't seen it, tune in this weekend. The Daytona just ended. It ended in a huge crash. That was how the race ended. Fire everywhere. And these guys are well protected in there. But if you have never seen it, take a look at it this weekend, watch it, and you chat in, call in next week, and you tell me if you weren't intrigued by it or entertained by it. Because the Fox and NBC, they do a fantastic job of making driving around a track for 300 laps very, very interesting.
Yeah, they do.
Mark,
do something with yourself this week. Take care of those birds, would you?
Yeah, I'll take care of the birds. I'm telling you, they keep throwing seed over the fence. We're gonna have to have a conversation about that. Mark, some people to thank tonight. As always, we want to thank the good people over at Special Sauce Podcast. Make sure you log on to their site. Very, very intelligent people. Nothing Mark and I will ever be in a position to use, but Special Sauce Podcast. Log on. Jag Media Productions. Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal law firm. Allow us to be your voice. Studio 42 Designs in North Providence, Rhode Island, and Mountain View Home Watch and Security, Scottsdale's leading private home security firm. And we also want to thank always our longtime producer and director, Joe Guarneri, for putting up with all our antics and all our nonsense and Mark throwing his equipment around. Tune in next week.
I had a bad week.
That's because Providence lost. Tune in next week. We'll air again 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll have everything to talk about. Everything's on the table, including the NASCAR Minute. We are the real deal, New England Feel. Look forward to talking with you next week. So long, everyone.